Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining us this evening for our market talk. My name is Rachel. I'm here with the Prevail Group, and we will introduce Amy Sally with the Prevail Group as well in a little bit. Today, we want to talk a little bit about the Denver market trends, but I do have John Kurowski on the line who has to leave here shortly, and he is on speakerphone, so bear with me if you don't mind. John, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Can everyone hear John? Yep, John, you're good. Do you want to tell us a little about what you do in your company and what kind of trends you're seeing right now on your side?
Okay. My company is Kurowski Custom Homes and Remodeling. We've been in business 44 years. We have 7 employees, and we work throughout the Denver metropolitan area. And I have kind of 3 different reports to share with you. Just let me know if you want me to do that now or later.
Yeah, go right ahead, John.
Okay. One of the reports I'd like to share with you is a summary of information that I've gotten from national builder and realtor reports, and some of it's kind of interesting. There was a noticeable uptick in people looking to buy homes in the suburbs since the height of the COVID hit. And that doesn't mean all cities and all states, but nationally, the national report showed that as a significant uptick in people coming from the inner cities and moving or looking at homes in the suburbs, both new and resale homes. The reasons were basically the COVID rates in the big cities, due to the density of the population, extended the stay at home, extended the number of people who were tested positive, also due to the number of people who were hospitalized, and also due to the number of deaths. So it had a much more severe impact in many of the big cities, but the fear translated out to other people in the cities, and that's what kind of triggered that trend. We don't know how long it's going to be, but that longer stay at home had an additional impact for people in the big cities. The other reason that came up in the survey was that the extended riots in many of the cities with larger size that were prolonged over days and in some cases several weeks also had a impact on that thinking. And then the other thing that came out in the report was that there were these radical groups who intended on taking over parts of the city and making them no police zones. Probably the most prominent one that you all know about is Seattle, where they're actually declared a part of the city as no police zones. And that all came out of that defunding thing. So there's an awful lot of upheaval that people are expressing concern about, and that's being translated in where they want to live in the future. I've had some brokers in this market tell me that they have seen in the last 30 to 45 days an uptick in calls from people in the city wanting to see homes in the suburbs. So that's kind of the summary of that. It's something that I think we all should watch for because it could affect us all in individual markets. The next report I'd like to share with you is how it's affected the building industry as a whole and how it's affected us. The supply chain has been affected in many different ways by different supply chains and different vendors and different suppliers. They're not all affected the same. There's increase in pricing going on, especially in the lumber area, and they're blaming all this on COVID. One of our jobs has been specifically affected for a minimum of 2 weeks because of a delay in the cabinets. It's going to delay our job 2 weeks and have effect on all the trade contractors behind them. And they specifically told us it had to do with a Finnish supplier. So overall, I would say our industry as a whole has responded very well to implementing safe conditions or guidelines for safe conditions. That varies a lot by the type of builder, the size of the builder, the location of the builder, and the state in which the project is. But both our national association and the commercial associations have implemented guidelines for working in the area of COVID concerns. I would like to thank Rachel for going way out of her way to get us some sanitizer for our job sites. We had run out of it and had a real challenge going from store to store. So we thank you for that, Rachel. We appreciate that. Individual companies, smaller companies are especially struggling with these policies because they're working with a different level of trade contractor. And but I see for ourselves and a lot of my associates, they're doing the best they can with masks, gloves, using sanitizer on the job. And what we're going to do is basically be sanitizing the entire job when we're done with a special sanitizer, either that we're going to use or we're going to hire a company, and we're going to make sure the owners know that we are doing that. One of the policies we've implemented here at our office when we have potential owners coming in to meet with us, we have a building that has a COVID policy, and we transferred that COVID policy and email to our visitors so that they know that they have to wear a mask when they come in. We've got sanitizer in the lobby. We've got sanitizer in our office. We let our visitors know that we've wiped down all our hardware, all the doorknobs, all the tables and all the chairs that they might be using in an effort to be as safe as we possibly can. So, moving on to the third area, one of the trends that is on what I call the questionable trend that's coming from architects and builders across the country is what's going to happen as a result of the stay-at-home COVID experience in terms of open floor plans, because that really has brought to light a lack of privacy, sound transfer, no extra workstations, and nobody really has a handle now on whether that potentially is going to have an impact on the popularity of open plans. But it's something that's being talked about, and as an industry, we're starting to say we need to be watchful and listen to our potential owners and buyers on how that's affected them and whether that's going to affect a home buying selection or a remodeling change. So the other thing that is, it may lead to a higher demand for outside living spaces. It's always been popular here in Colorado and many places across the country, but people are seeing outdoor living as a hourly escape space or a longer stay-at-home space, since many restaurants are closed around the country, have closed down permanently. A lot of people are expressing concern that they may not be ready to go back to restaurants. So this has also come up in discussions. The other thing is that the stay-at-home policy for many companies and many workers have shown that, hey, I can work at home, I don't need to compute, and my company's going to be okay with that. Nobody really knows what that number's going to be because it's going to take a while to shake out. But the impacts of that are going to be the benefits for the homeowner or the employee staying at home is they don't have to commute. They may not be eating as much. They're going to save dollars on their taxes. And the impact for the companies long term could be that they're going to diminish their office space, and at the same time, some of their management positions may be taken away from office space too. So there's so many dynamics to working in that area. I think we all have to pay attention to what the impact is going to be. For some companies, that's going to raise some real, what I would call security issues in the use of computers. Some companies have a lot of computer security that homeowners do not have, and that's a kind of a be watchful kind of thing that we all need to be aware of. So there's going to be a whole lot of potential positive and negative impacts as this shakes out, depending on how many people actually can work from home efficiently and safely, and how many companies will start reducing office space. I do have some direct impact from employees who working. The company has about 25 employees, and they all had a very restricted stay-at-home policy for 2 months, and they all found that it really took away from them the spirit of camaraderie and exchanging ideas, and they're now back at a limited 3-day a week. So they're at home 3 days a week, and then they're back at the office 2 days a week. But when they go back to their office, they're only working in small groups of 4. I have definitely made it mandatory that they restricted their normal staff. So there's a lot of challenges going on that I think are going to ripple down to what's going to happen in the way people work out of their homes. They're going to need studies, offices. We had one family who canceled a very nice remodeling job because they both had to stay home at work, had to stay home to work, and there was no real place for 2 people, no real place for 1 person to work, and no real place for 2 people to work at home. So there is going to be an impact. That job has been canceled. It may come back to us in the future, but I think it's a issue for all of us to be alert. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Does anyone have questions for John before he heads out here?
I'm going to be able to hang on if your phone can hang on for a while.
Okay.
I just wanted to jump in and talk about a little of the people wanting to move out of the more downtown areas, urban areas, because I actually have a friend of ours who has been thinking about moving out into the burbs, and he's been a city guy the entire time. Him and his wife, they've both been in the city their entire life. They together, they've lived in Alexandria, and they still have a house there, and now they live in Capitol Hill. And now they're expecting, and they still were planning on staying in Capitol Hill, just kind of kicking around the idea of moving to the suburbs. But now he's like, think I'm going to be moving. I think I'm going to take this seriously and start moving into the suburbs for many reasons. But I think the COVID and the riots both have kind of made it just feel like they need to move further away. So it's interesting to hear John say that. And then And then I have a client that's in that situation.
Well, actually, to state on that is, I know a few men's groups and some church right around here over off of coal mine and places like that. And some of the older people have gone to smaller homes and now are concerned about they've been trapped. So they're talking about basically instead of downsizing, they're now buying a home that's got more space in it because they felt so trapped in either a you know, assisted living or whatever you want to call it, and they want to move out. And I've been reading a lot of articles about people, not so much in the city, but just the idea, as John was talking about, is that the fact that people are concerned that they were worried, they wanted to downsize because their families were getting smaller, but now some of the families are coming back, or they just need more room for either families or, like in my house, my wife works now. Well, she's been here 3 months, and so she's going back, but she's only going back part-time. So both of us working in the house, she's downstairs, I'm upstairs. That's why I have headphones on. So because even if you're upstairs, downstairs, and you're talking on Zoom or whatever you're on, some phone calls, you can always hear the person downstairs. So yeah, I mean, from what I'm reading, is people are really starting to really rethink downsizing because of what has happened in the last few months.
Yeah, and I think it's also like what you're saying, that's going to kind of like change the way we think about living too. And you know, we already have been in a short inventory of single level homes, right? And I think that's going to end up like the same thing. Like they don't want to be living in these 55 plus communities anymore. They're at the higher risk, and now they're in lockdown. They can't even enjoy their life. I mean, we're all in lockdown, but they're really in lockdown. They won't even let them walk down the hallways. So them experiencing that, and if that, you know, it's a really good point. Like honestly didn't even think about that we're going to need more single level homes, and we're already short, you know. And it's probably going to change the way, John, and you might even want to talk to this, but it's probably going to change the way people are building their homes, and not just open concepts, but they might be adding mother-in-law suites now. They might finish out the basements with kitchens. Like they might be doing that so that they can bring in the family. And I do know some friends of mine who each have a family member in assisted living, and they took them and brought them home when this all took off in March, or earlier, I guess, February, March. So, yep, I'm right there with you on that.
I'd like to respond to Amy's comment. I agree 100% with Scott and Amy on their comments. I have some personal experience with friends I know who are in a retirement center, and they have gone almost out of their mind with the restrictions. I mean, it almost drove them to the point of, you know, bursting out the door and leaving. It just drove them crazy. And what Amy said about having parents or other relatives come at home, we've been a supporter of that for about 20 years, because we believe it's a real solution, a real social solution to caring for aged relatives or friends, to be able to have an assisted dwelling unit, either attached or detached to a home. 20 years ago, myself and another architect spent a huge amount of time going to cities to try to get them to change ordinances to allow that to happen. And we were met with a cold shoulder in 100% of the cases. But today it's different. There are cities who are considering that, and the restriction on that really is the possibility of finding a building lot large enough to do it, or taking an existing home and putting on an accessory dwelling unit or an addition, and some people would just simply call it addition, to handle it, to have the restrictions with setbacks and things like that. But I am a huge fan of that because that brings the families back together, solves a social need, and even more important in many cases, it solves a huge economic need. So I think comments from Scott and Amy are 100% right on. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Amy, do you want to stay on mute for a minute? So by the way, this is Amy, lead buyer's agent from the Prevail Group with her husband, Kevin, lead listing agent. We kind of got into real estate a little bit. Do you guys want to talk about the real estate trends before we get into other professionals?
Do you want to talk about? The main thing that I'm noticing right now is that our market is not being affected at all. It's crazy. I mean, you would think that, you know, people would maybe have a little more fear in buying, or I don't know. I'm noticing, I mean, at least every offer that I've made, we've competed against at least one other offer. And fortunately, and unfortunately, I would say, for FHA buyers, if we're competing against an FHA buyer and I have a conventional loan, our conventional loans are being accepted quicker than the FHA loans are. And that's just because of the buying power and the uncertainty of what they qualify for right now. And I know Sarah and Mike will be able to talk to this later, but I just beat out another loan, and I think it was an FHA buyer, and we had more money down and we were a conventional loan. So I'm also noticing that they're like the nice houses. I have a buyer right now in Parker and Castle Rock, and they're going fast. So if he wants it, he has to move fast or he's going to miss out on it. The market is strong right now. And I feel like it's kind of just taken that 3 weeks in April, and it's been pushed into June. Like it's just like we had talked about, the residual effect of what was happening. So I don't know. I'd be interested to see what Sarah and Mike are seeing, and actually you too, Joe. I mean, all of you guys. So it'd just be really interesting to see what's happening, because it's moving fast. So it's a good time to buy too. So do you want to talk about anything?
No, that's pretty much sums it up. I mean, we saw the same thing on the listing side. I mean, you know, you list a house and it get multiple offers right away. So, and
I'm seeing it in all price ranges. From 300 all the way up to 1.6, literally. Like all from there in between, they're moving. So.
Do you see this as a concern, as the prices are going to price people out of the market?
We've been on our way that way.
Yeah,
I know that, but do you see this? Because what I'm reading is there a ton of buyers, but not a lot of sellers out there.
Yeah, it's been like that for the last 4 or 5 years. So it's nothing new. We actually have more inventory than we've had in the past.
Okay.
So, and I think, again, though, I think it's going to go back down again. I think we're at a couple thousand more than we normally have. And now I do think that going into the fall, we're going to have our record lows again for inventory. That's my prediction anyway.
Yeah, you know, and I just to talk on that outpricing people out of the market, like Amy said, that's been our concern for a while. It's been a lot of people's concerns for a while, just due to how fast the housing market pricing is growing here. I think one of the kind of the unseen or unfocused on consequences that's actually going to price people out are the tax increases, because, you know, neighborhoods taxes are doubling, tripling, even quadrupling over the years, because the housing market is getting so expensive in their neighborhood. So is keeping people from, you know, everybody just looks at that price like, oh man, $550,000, which, sad to say, is almost the median price of a home here now. It's not, but it almost is. What people aren't focusing on as much are the taxes, until you start to dive in there and they're like, wow, $5,400 a year in taxes. You know, whereas 3 years ago, that same neighborhood might have been 2,800, 3,200. So that really, I know the lenders here, they're both shaking their heads going, yeah, no kidding. Because I mean, that's something that's seriously pricing people out of homes now. Plus you tack that on with HOAs, which are also going up. And it's just, I don't know where we're headed with this, but it's hard for people to afford homes here.
Absolutely, yeah.
On the taxing issue, you may want to look to Florida. There's a big problem. Seriously, when you sell a house for a certain price, that's the taxes you pay. Now, if you bought it 20 years ago, you have a different tax basis, but they base it upon the selling price going forward. So it goes substantially higher. So your neighbor could be paying $2,000 and you could be paying $10,000 on the same house.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and on that note, we're really careful too with our buyers, because we can see the taxes from 2019 and it shows $1,600 a year, and that's not correct. What's going to happen is it's going to triple next year when they do get their taxes. And we actually ran into that one with one of our buyers. He loved the house, but it was only, and the taxes were only like $1,600. I was like, nope, you're surrounded by new builds. This is not legit. So we don't want our buyers to be caught off guard either. So we make sure we point that out to them. Like, just because this number says that is not what's going to happen. And you're going to get screwed. You are. So. Yeah.
And that's where in Florida, when we had the recession back in 2008, why Florida had one of the highest, if not the highest, foreclosure rates in the nation is because of taxes. Insurance also is unreal there. But between those, people don't realize the real cost.
Yeah.
Owning a home.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, we went on our little tangent.
Yeah, that's on that.
Listen, we should talk to one of the lenders so they can at least, I'm sure they're chomping at the bit right now.
Hey, Mike, Sarah, you guys want to fight over this or?
Like, I've started the past two. You're going to start this one. You go for it.
Well, I was going to go ladies first as always, but.
Oh, you're so nice, but you go for it.
Well, how about this? I'll tag in on the taxes issue and maybe tie that into the financial conversations. One of the things that I spend a lot of time talking with people is the total financial housing that you're going to have, right? So principal, interest, taxes, insurance, HOA, potentially private mortgage insurance. But on the taxes, one of the things that we're really paying attention to is when people are buying properties that have metro districts, and that's so I would encourage everybody to make sure you're paying attention to those specific taxable districts, because they can continue to increase going forward to recover their infrastructure costs. And so on the front end they're high, and they can continue to go higher. So standard neighborhoods that don't have those taxes are going to be difficult, but manageable. So the things that I would just say is, what we're really doing with everybody is just going through that true pre-approval and having all of those financial conversations up front, so that when you get in the car and you're going out to look at homes, that you've already gone through all of that logical financial stuff to say, can we even afford to go and look at these homes? And then when you get to that front door, right, and Amy and Kevin are walking you in, you get that opportunity to enjoy the emotion of finding the right home and knowing that when you're walking in, you can afford it, right? We run all of those numbers ahead of time. This is exactly, if you're walking into 123 Anywhere Street, this is what it's going to be. This is the payment, so that going in that you can afford it. To that extent, I would say rates are still phenomenal, right? I mean, Amy, you hit it on the head. This is a fantastic time to buy, right? If you're pre-approved, lowest rates ever. Houses are sellers are anxious to sell, so you can walk in and be prepared to just put in an offer. Low threes, high, a week and a half ago, high twos for 30-year fixed money. You can get agency jumbo, so that's kind of that little hybrid jumbo from 510, 400 to 561, 200. So that is still in the low threes, 3 1/8 today. If you're at 20% down or more, I mean, this is insane, right? $500,000 at low threes. You can't borrow that money at that price anywhere but in a home. So it's a great place to invest, a great time to buy. The market's really stable. Everything stayed really low for the last 90 plus days. So stock market's starting to rebound, but craziness in the world, right? Instability. So that's going to keep rates pretty low, in my opinion. Probably the key thing I would say is with borrowers, your standard, if you're just got your W-2, you're a standard W-2 borrower, everything's pretty normal. The one thing we have seen is with a little bit with the self-employed borrowers, the investors are just maybe how about this, dialing up the risk-o-meter a little bit. They're just wanting to see a little bit more documentation. So self-employed borrowers should be prepared for 2 years of income docs, even if they've been employed in that industry for 5 years or more, where we used to be able to go with 1 year. They're looking for that extra year, just as a warm and fuzzy and something to be, just something to lower the overall risk. Final thing is I would say is just we've had a lot of, the pent up demand. I think that's probably part of what you were talking about, Amy, with, everybody's, it's like being at, whatever the Thursday is before Thanksgiving, everybody's knocking on the door going, let us in, let us in, let us in, And so with that, those pent up buyers are now released, right? And so it's, man, I mean, we're seeing 4, 5, 6 offers, on that lower price point. When you start getting into the 300 range, I mean, there was a house on the market. I had a borrower, it had been on the market for 5 hours and there were 3 people that walked through it and 5 offers at the 7th hour, right? So it's like Black Friday, just everybody coming in trying to get an offer. And so you have to be prepared. Anybody that was pre-qualified or pre-approved in the last 60 days, get re-approved, right? Re-approved, re-qualified, so that that there's nothing goofy, nothing that's happened out there that would prevent you from walking in. So I'll take a breath, hand over to Sarah, who's to my right or left, whichever, and
You're
I'll
below
answer
me.
any questions that are needed afterwards.
Mike, great information. My name is Sarah Flannery. Mike and I are both lenders within the industry, and kind of to tack on what we were just talking about with taxes a little bit, I have been digging a lot more into that conversation with all of my buyers prior to them going out and shopping. Even when they're pre-approved, asking what their comfortable mortgage payment is and explaining to them that this part of your principal and interest payment is fixed. That will never change over the life of the loan, but you are subject to your taxes and your insurance increasing. And with buying here in Colorado, there's a 99.9% chance that is increasing. There is not very many that are staying either flat or decreasing. So just to make sure that they're prepared for the next 5 years or 7 years or however long they're going to be in that home, that they could potentially be paying more in their mortgage payment. And if they're already tapped out at that close to, half 50% of their income prior to taxes, it's a really, really worthy thought to have prior to going and seeing a house that you may fall in love with. And then, a couple of years from now, just be like, what do we do? Like, and I start having that buyer's remorse. So definitely taking that into the conversation. But along the lines with Mike, I've had more conversations with buyers over the past 2 weeks than I've had in a really, really long time. People are coming out thinking they've been either thinking about buying or they're ready to pull the trigger. And now that they're seeing the numbers that they possibly can do it, everyone's situation is very different. And I'm finding I've got people that live in condos that with 2 kids in a 2-bedroom condo, and they're clawing at the bit to get out. And then, along the lines of what Scott was talking about, and 55 and over communities with, people they can't leave. They're stuck. They're unhappy. And so now they need something a little bit bigger, but not as, confined. So it's definitely a lot of buyers out there, but we're definitely seeing a lot more offers going on houses. We talked a little bit about FHA loans, which are government-based loans, typically for borrowers that typically have a little bit of a lower credit score. or want to increase their buying power a little bit, FHA also has some really extra guidelines when it comes to appraisals. So a lot of sellers are a little bit more apprehensive to take an FHA offer because they may potentially have to do more work to the house outside of any of the inspection items that may come up. So definitely a very valid point, and something to think about when you are getting pre-approved and thinking about your options. Rates have been excellent. In the 20 plus years that my company's been doing business, 8 for me, hands down the lowest we've ever seen them. On the refinance and the buy side, things are still moving pretty quickly. Of the 40 lenders I work with, probably have 2 or 3 that are still trying to play catch up from all the volume. But for the most part, everyone's hired accordingly. Things are moving through in about 40, 45 days on a refinance. Purchase, no problem, 3-4 weeks on our average turn times there. We are also seeing, Mike and I talked about this a few weeks ago, but what's nice, because a lot of people think that they always have to have an appraisal on their home. We have seen since COVID started an uptick of what we call property inspection waivers, which basically means Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have been gathering data. And when you send it through the automated underwriting system and we say the value is this, if it's on point with the data that they have supported, they won't require us to have an appraisal. I'm getting them on purchases and I'm getting them on refinances. So that's a kind of nice other benefit. It's not a huge thing. A lot of people dread having that appraisal. It's an extra fee. We don't know what the value is going to come back at. So it's definitely worth having a go at that and making sure that we can execute that if possible. And then to touch a little bit on the self-employment guidelines, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac finally put in some really defined guidelines to all of us. Now what's happening is the lenders are taking those and putting their own spin on it as well. But, we are seeing a lot stricter things. Definitely 2 years of tax returns. We've also had some back and forth with some of my top lenders in regards to how they will handle income for this year. If your business was shut down, they're not excluding those 3 months. They are actually still counting that in your monthly, like even if you had no income those 3 months, you will still have that averaged over, let's say 6 months versus 3, even though your business was shut down. So it's really, really, really important if you are self-employed and looking to buy or refinance, definitely be patient, be prepared. You're probably going to dig a bit more because they really want to make sure that you're a qualified buyer or doing a refinance with your business. And, COVID's affected everybody in very drastic ways. Mike and I's life have been over the top crazy busy. A lot of people, have the complete opposite. And there's some that just weren't affected too much outside of their mental sanity, of course. But, outside of that, I just think it's still a really great time to reevaluate your current mortgage situation if you're into it in a mortgage, or if you're looking to buy or increase your potential investment portfolio. It's still a really, really, really good time to look into doing that. So I'd connect with Mike, myself, Amy, Kev. All of us are just great advocates for you guys to really just see what we can do and how we can help. That's all I got.
I want to jump in and just add in one more idea for people too, is via the difference between FHA and a 3% down. So usually on FHA, we're doing that because of the lower down payment, but there's a conventional 3% down, home ready and home possible. Very, very competitive in rates. The MI factor, the private mortgage insurance factor, is very competitive as well, and it can go away in the future. FHA right now, PMI never goes away for the life of the loan unless you refinance or sell. So you can do a home possible, home ready at 3%. All you have to do is take an online education course. It takes probably 4 to 6 hours and get a certificate. Goes as part of the package. And that's a really good option for people who are first-time homeowners.
I've been using that program a lot right now for a lot of my first-time home buyers. It's super great. The interest rates are very competitive. And like Mike said, the MI rates are just really, 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 really awesome. So
It's good to know.
I have a question for you both. Are you either one of you familiar with the Metro DPA, the down payment assistance?
yes, We were actually certified to do it, and then they got too bogged down, and then they just stopped certifying people. It's very similar to Chaffa. There is less fees associated to do the Metro DPA, and I was under the assumption that they were possibly, this was last year before COVID, that they were giving closer to that 5% like Chaffa was originally doing for down payment assistance. I know the Metro DPA was really backed big by US Bank. That was their biggest funder with that. I have not personally done any loans with the Metro DPA because of the challenge that I had to try to finish getting certified. I did all of the training that we had to do, a couple hours and stuff like that, and basically applied to do it, and we just never heard back, and it was like a year later. Still haven't heard back. Okay. So I do know that it's a thing, it is valid, and if you have somebody that can do it, it was a great option to Chaffa. Okay. It definitely had a couple more perks to Chaffa than Chaffa did. But yeah, I mean, if it's available and you have somebody to do it, I would totally at least research the option to do it.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. I got brought to my attention. I'd never heard of it, so that's why I'm asking. I wanted to make sure it was legit. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. Let's move on to Julie real quick, and then we'll finish with a live question and answer session. Julie, would you like to introduce yourself again and tell us what you're seeing?
Absolutely. So I'm Julie with A Buyer's Choice Home Inspections. I did this wonderful background via Canva in case you need one. That's how easy it is. So I was talking to Dave. So we have a family business. Dave is the owner and senior inspector, and then we have Peter, who, if I could pick a brother, it would be him. So they're the inspectors. I don't do the inspections. But Dave came over to my house this afternoon, and he pointed out a fact that I've been so busy scheduling inspections I didn't even look at. We've had 40 inspections in 17 days, or in 13 days. That's a lot. Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm very happy that we have that, but I hadn't even thought about that. So inspections are going good. People are buying and selling, and it's quite amazing what they are doing, and we are here to do that inspection for you. So we are available, and we're here to do it. I highly suggest you do not skip the inspection. It would be essentially like buying a car off the side of a road, not having anyone look at it. So differences because of COVID in how our inspections take place and in what we are expecting of the buyers. We still want our buyers or the seller, to be there and ask questions and find out what people are going to see, what the buyers are going to see, what the sellers need to know to list that property so that it will sell faster. And if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you want to wear gloves, wear gloves. We don't really care, but we will focus on what you prefer. If you want us to wear a mask, we will. Dave doesn't prefer gloves. He prefers to use hand sanitizer after he touches or between touching things in the home. So that's how he does it. And Peter, I think he will sometimes wear gloves or sometimes do the hand sanitizer, but we are trying to be cognizant of what is required from the health department, but also in comfort level of people. People are polarized on this issue. They either believe they're all going to die because of this or they're not. And so we like to go with what our client and your client is comfortable with. But we're also happy to go over the inspection via FaceTime or Zoom or just a phone call. So that's what we've been seeing. People are buying and selling, and it's great. And we are here to support you in any way that we can.
Julie, I have a question. Do you do new build pre-inspections?
Yeah, Amy, we have 3 options for a new build. Pre-drywall. And people are like, why would I want pre-drywall? Because then we can see that the systems in the home are connected and working properly. We do the builder final when a couple days before or the same day, but earlier than your builder walkthrough, we will do that. I have heard it called the blue tape kind of look. We are never trying to get the builder in trouble. We are simply seeing that, hey, there's a vent hole there, or there's a vent there, but there's no hole. So you need to have a hole to fill that vent. And then the last one is the builder warranty. So after that home is, at 11 months, we come in and do the warranty to, it's not a punch list for any for any means. It's just simply, hey, here's what our third party said. You need to have a check. You need to check out. So
Yeah.
yeah, we do that.
Okay, yeah, we will set automatic reminders for our new build clients that remind them at 10 months, don't forget, you got to schedule your inspection for your warranty, blah, blah, blah. So I just didn't know how much of that you did. So that's good to know. That.
Yeah, we're pretty much full service. If you want it done, you feel free to talk to us. We probably already do it, or we're happy to figure out how we could.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you so much.
And if anyone's interested as well, Julie has this wonderful spring and summer home maintenance sheet. If you guys want a copy of it, leave your email in the chat box and she can send you that. Besides that, does anyone have any questions for anyone right now?
I'd like to direct some questions to Joel. Joel's our photographer for all the homes that we list.
So an agent.
And he is also a real estate agent. So he would be able to talk to a little bit about what we're also seeing, I'm sure. So Joel, do you have anything that you wanted to add or what you're experiencing right now?
And I'm sorry, Joel, we haven't met in person and I didn't recognize your email address.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was a hacker. Who's the bald guy hacking? No worries. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so, realtor, also an investor, so I can echo Sarah and Mike's comments on the lending side of and the investment being a lot more stringent here lately. But also own 360 Tour Designs. It's a real estate photography company. So we do HDR photos, aerials, and drones. And recently just been doing all the 3D Matterport tours, which is very popular, in the last couple months, just because people could not get out to homes. There were no open houses. Even now, as it's starting to get a little bit more lax on that, we haven't really let up in terms of business. So it's great on that end for me, and we have some independent contractors that work for me. But I think several people mentioned the convenience of working from home and this and that. I think 3D virtual stuff could be here to stay even after COVID passes eventually. From buyers and sellers standpoint, it's a convenience. If I don't have to take 5 buyers or a buyer to 5 houses because they can weed out 3 of them by looking at it, that's a benefit. So we're doing a lot of those. We also do commercial real estate, so that'll be interesting to see. Obviously, everybody's predicting that there'll be a lot more vacancies in commercial space over the next year and plus. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's kind of what I do. And yeah, it's interesting to hear everybody's perspective and very informational. So thank you.
Thanks,
I want to add something to Sarah and Mike. Are you guys following any of the PPP loans at all? Now, you mentioned something about the 3-month shutdown. That some of these people that are getting the PPP loans, the IRS and the government aren't on the same page. So if they do receive a PPP loan and they get it forgiven, that's actually income for the year, additional income that they did not. Because what happens is the IRS, in their mind, they feel that is tax-free money. And if you receive a deduction from tax-free money, you don't get a deduction for it. It's actually income. So a lot of people's net income is actually going to be higher. So maybe you could use that down the road.
Unfortunately, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac put a big kibosh on that.
Did they? Okay.
That was part of their new self-employment guideline rules.
Okay.
If they've gotten any types of PPP loans, we can't use it as income, and we do potentially have to hit it against their debt to income ratio if it's not already been forgiven.
Yeah, the problem with the PPP loans, they keep changing the rules and the laws every day, just about.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing that we have seen, but yeah,
Complicated.
yeah, exactly, complicated. But yeah, they kiboshed it. That's the way I look at it.
sound like you were gonna say something. Cool. Wow. Well, thank you guys for all your information again. I think, Rachel, did we decide, are we going to start taking this monthly instead of bi-weekly? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, first Thursday of the month,
Okay.
same time, 4 o'clock, and I'll still send out emails and stuff. So
Cool.
give you guys an extra week in between.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. We do want to continue this. So thank you for everyone who has contributed. You will be added to Rachel's email list and be invited every time. We will have multiple people representing the same industry, but I think we all together can, you know, help each other. It doesn't matter if we're in the same industry, and we just want to make sure that we are educating the public who are not in it every day, so that they know what to expect and that they're in good hands. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the different industries, even Joel, next time, feel free to just kind of open up more about who you are, you work for, and you know what we're all in different offices, right? So every office has different things they put out, different regulations they're going by, different. So it's good just to, you know, get all the information out there and make everybody aware of what we're all seeing in our industries.
For sure. Yep. Awesome.
So yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's Thursday. You only have one more day in the week.
That's right. Unless you're in real estate.
Unless
wait
you're
a minute.
in real estate. Oh, wait.
Hey.
Real quick, Scott, did you have any more questions for anyone since you tuned in to us today?
No, but I appreciate, I got an email last week and then I didn't have an opportunity and I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you letting myself in.
Sure.
A lot of information. I do have clients that are both in the real estate, residential and commercial, and also in the rental. So it really gives me some more information to help them out.
Good.
Well, thank you for joining us, and feel free to keep in touch if we can do anything for you. All right, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a great evening.